Spurge here, and in this video we're going to break down the new Dainese Nexus 2 boots available in a waterproof and an air version. So if you are looking at the previous version, the Nexus 1s, they have gone unchanged since 2015. And if you're looking at these new Nexus 2s, which have taken 7 years of time to come out with a second version of this, they look darn near identical to the Nexus 1. So, right out of the gate, if you are someone that was a fan of the Nexuses and they're just wearing out on you and you need a replacement, you are going to be very happy with these particular boots. And that's something that I am actually a fan of. I like my Levi's in the same fit that I did 10 years ago. I don't want change. However, for people looking for an updated, newer version of something, they would consider this a bit lacking, if you will. Now, there's a few key little updates, mainly with the air version. You're going to see much more perforation, much more airflow, which I actually would appreciate if you're using these in the summer months. The previous versions were a little bit stuffy, and then the waterproof version is going to stay the same with a D-dry. Now, the one thing to note here is that the thing that did change was the price. If you're looking at the air version, this is up from $300. This is now going to be sitting at the $350 price point or around there. And then the waterproof version is sitting right around the $370 mark. So roughly a $70 increase on the waterproof version. So seems like inflation is hitting everywhere, especially in some of this motorcycle apparel that we're seeing new coming for 2023. So really what you're going to note here is that I have used the previous version of these boots for years, and they really don't wear out. You can get many years out of these, but from a fitment standpoint, please note that these do have a narrow fit to them. So if you're looking for a pair of boots and you have a wider flipper down there, they're gonna pinch you right around this front area here. So just keep that in mind. This is really designed for people with a slightly narrower toe bed. Now, the one note here is sizing is European, will range from a 39 up to a 47. I find that these fit perfectly true to size in line with all the other motorcycle boots that I wear. So you should really have no surprises from sizing other than the fact that they are a bit on the narrow side. 4 different colorways available. And if you're looking at this particular boot, this is something that you can wear for ultimate protection on the street, but it's also a get you to the track option. Really where these got added to my lineup is my first pair of dedicated track boots. I got a pair of the earlier versions of the Nexuses, and that's really what's been a go-to in my collection for quite a bit. Now, what I will say is that this new version does have some of those key updates just in the perforation. I like that. The older ones were a bit stuffy, but some of the things that I liked about the original version have been refined a little bit too. Now, mainly what we're talking about is going to be that dual hinge system. This is going to be a system that Dainese has used for years, but really the main change here is that the bottom portion has been kind of streamlined and is now sitting inside. It's also a bit more rigid, so you're getting a bit more protection out of this particular system. Now, when we talk about a dual hinge system, there's hinges on both sides which allow for a nice range of motion, but you're still getting that lateral support, so the boot won't move too much side to side, which is what you're looking for in a race boot. From a protection standpoint, you want to make sure you can comfortably walk around in this, and yet you don't want it to move too much side to side to protect your ankles. Now, as we walk through the boot itself, it is a synthetic leather construction. So what that means is that this boot pretty much is going to fit the same way it does when you try it on as the day that you no longer wear it anymore. Unlike true leather, which breaks in and kind of stretches over time, synthetic really does hold its shape. Now, there's pros and cons to this. If you're putting the boot on and it fits perfectly right out of the box, you are set to go. You really shouldn't see any alterations as you break the boot in from a sizing standpoint. The con on this is if you get the boot and you feel like maybe it's just a little bit too tight, but you're hoping it's going to break in, it won't. It's going to continue to fit a little bit too tight, so just keep that in mind as you're trying the boot on. If you try the boot on and you really think it might be a little bit too tight, don't keep it, return it. It's not going to break in, and I can tell you after years and years of wearing the boots, they fit exactly the same. Now, working our way from the front around to the back, you are going to see that there's symmetry in the shifter pad, so even the braking foot is going to have a shifter pad up on the top. You are going to have toe sliders. Now, these are just a TPU toe slider. Really, when you jump up to something like the Torque boot, which comes in around the $450 price in Dainese's lineup, that's where you get up into like magnesium type sliders. But the sliders do their job. If you're getting down on the track and you need a toe slider, this works out really well. And then when you're looking at the bottom, the base, really no changes here. The sole, super comfortable, about a 4 out of 10, 5 out of 10 from a rigidity standpoint. You do have the reinforced nylon shank in here, so when you're on the foot pegs themselves, you get that support, but then down around the toe area, you get a lot of flex, which is what you're looking for out of a race boot. You want to have the mobility and the feel for the shift and the brake pedal. So as we're talking about the heel on this, we work our way around to the back, it's roughly about a 1/2 inch rise. So for those of you that are, maybe a little bit vertically challenged and you're looking to get a little bit of height out of your boot to feel a bit taller, you're gonna get roughly about a 1/2 inch of extra boost out of the heel on this particular piece. As you come around to the back, the reinforcement around the heel has stayed the same. You have this big wraparound TPU to incorporate around the back of your heel cup on this. Now the entry on this has stayed the same as well. So when we're looking at the entry point, one of the things that I really liked about this boot is it's really easy to get on and off. I am a fan of the way this is set up. So you have the main zip that goes into the back, you slide your foot in there, and then you also have these adjusters at the top. So this is definitely a in the boot design. And then you have these little adjusters so you can fine tune how much extra room you need at the top. If you're like myself and you got those big old calves down there, you can give yourself a little bit of extra room. You don't feel so bad. You don't feel like your calves are too big. You feel like the boot is just right. And then once you get it set to where you want, you can go ahead and you can zip it up. And you can see there, you got that little extra room at the top, and it's on both sides. So you have, probably a couple inches of mobility here. Probably I would say between all the way shut and all the way open, you're looking at, roughly 3.5 inches of room that you can give yourself at the top. When you get into the inside of the boot, just a simple mesh construction on the inside. Again, very comfortable, helps promote the airflow if you're looking at the air version. And then the waterproof version over my left-hand side, you'll notice doesn't have any of the perforation to it. Now this is gonna be a D-dry waterproof boot, and my only real nitpick here is that this is coming in around the 370 mark. You could look at something like the Sport Master in Dainese's line. That currently is sitting around 390. Now we might see a price increase there as well, but that gets you up into a Gore-Tex boot and still gives you a lot of the same protection. The main difference between the two is that this one is gonna give you a little bit more of that out of the boot design. This is going to be a little bit racier looking. If you're looking at the Sport Master, you're still going to have that dual hinge protection. However, it does look like a little bit more of in the boot. Something you could wear a pair of jeans over top of. Isn't quite as racy looking as what you're getting with the Nexus 2. So just keep that in mind. But you're getting up into Gore-Tex waterproof protection, and Gore-Tex is just a bit more breathable. If you're not familiar, Gore-Tex is at maximum breathability, so that's why you would consider making the bump to something like the Sport Masters over the Nexus 2s. But really, when you're looking at the two, the question that you have to ask yourself is, do you want breathability? Are you wearing these mostly in the warmer months of the year? Or are you looking for something that's a bit more seasonal, something that you can use in the hot months, but you can also use into the cooler months as well? And from a comfort standpoint, like I said, I know that these are probably looking more like an entry-level race boot for a lot of people out there, but I've used it not just as a race boot, but this is my go-to sport touring boot for a lot of things as well. I like the extra protection on the street. Not something I would wear day to day, but if I was taking a longer sport touring trip, you can get away with wearing these all day long as your foot isn't too wide. I have had enough accidents over the year with my feet that they've changed sizes a little bit, so they've started to even snug up on me. So just something to keep in mind. That's my really only consideration when we're talking about the sizing for this. Other than that, a lot of comfort to be had here, whether you're using it on the track or using this as an all-day sport touring boot. Now, this is a boot that has been very popular in Dainese's line. There are plenty of reviews out there. You could click the info button and read rider reviews on the previous Nexus 1s or the Nexus 2s, and because so little has changed, you're going to get pretty similar feedback on people and how they feel about this boot. Now, if you're still not sure as to which riding boot is right for you, and you want a little bit more information, you can reach out to one of our customer service representatives. They can walk you through all the different boots available and help you find the right boot to match your riding style and the level of comfort which you desire. So thank you for joining us today for this look at the Dainese Nexus 2 boots. I'm Spurge. Enjoy the ride.